This video is going to show you how to add a watermark, also known as a bug, to your video. Now for me, using a watermark is something I'll do for branding, so anyone that watches the video will see my watermark. Usually it's a transparent image of the URL of my site. Now sometimes it can be something like a logo image in one of the lower corners of the video, kind of like how YouTube has their logo on their player. Now adding a watermark to your videos should be done sparingly, because in most cases it does not give a very professional look to your videos, and sometimes can actually get in the way of the content of the videos if not done properly. So if you do not have to add a watermark, then don't. So when do you add a watermark? Well, if you're putting your video on a secure site, like in a members area, and only registered members of that site have access, then this might not be a place for a video with a watermark. If, however, you're putting a video on your blog or using it as website content where anyone can view it, then you might consider adding a watermark to that video. The watermark or bug allows you to identify it as your video just in case something happens down the line and you have to be able to say, hey, that's my video. Okay, well, that's the why. Now for the how. Now, whatever you use within your watermark, be it a URL to your website, or just a logo or a text message like one that might say sample slapped across the entire video, well, you want to use a transparent image so that the background does not block out any of the content. You want the watermark to be almost invisible so that it's not a big distraction from the video content, kind of like what I have right here on this video. You can see it's barely visible, and in some cases you can't even make part of it out. But if we were to go through and kind of scroll through some of the video here, you can see how it remains in the lower right corner of sorts. And it might even be a little bit too big in this example, but that's what we're looking for. That or an image of some sort down in the lower right corner. That's my preference anyway. You can have it wherever you want, but again, you want it to be as minimal of a distraction as possible. So this is what we're shooting for. So let's go ahead and create our watermark. I'm going to be using GIMP. You can use whatever you want, whether it's Photoshop or Paint.net, whatever type of image editing software you have or have access to that can create a transparent image. I'm going to go ahead and open up GIMP and come on up here to File, New. The dimensions here are fine because I'm going to crop that anyway. Come on over to Text. And let's go ahead and increase the size there. Now the size isn't that big of a deal because you can always increase the size, as you'll see here in a second, of whatever image you're using as your watermark. You can do that inside of Camtasia Studio. Now I want to crop this and hit my Enter key, and then over here hit the eyeball so that I can make this transparent. So basically I'm removing the background color, so all that's going to show up here is the text that I entered. Now I come on up here to File, go to Export As. You see where it's saving it as a PNG. That's one of the few image extensions that will allow for a transparency. JPG will not allow for a transparency. This is one I created earlier, so I'm just going to overwrite that. And now that I've got my image created, go ahead and get out of here, bring in my video, put that in the timeline, produce and share. And in the production wizard, I'm looking for custom production settings, unless you've already created one that allows for a watermark, and then click on Next. Choose between MP4 or AVI. I mean, you could always go with MOV or WMV, but I'm going to go with MP4 because that's a good web-ready video format. Next, I don't want a controller. The size, video settings, and audio settings are all fine for this example. Click on Next. This is where I'm going to be adding my watermark. Make sure that that box is ticked because by default it's not. And usually by default you've got the TechSmith logo over here. So you want to then click on Options to get your logo. Come on up here to this folder icon, click on that, and navigate to the location on your computer where you saved your watermark. This is the one that I just saved. You see it brings it in down here. And the opacity, usually it's going to start off at a default of, I think it's 50%. You want to make sure that that's going to be between 10 to 20%, somewhere in this area, and you can preview it right here. The image scale is usually going to start off very small. You want it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 30, 40%, depending upon how big it was when you first created it. And as far as the actual location, you can choose down here. I would not go with the absolute middle, but that's totally up to you. I would go in the lower right corner. Somewhere in the lower area is what I would go for. Vertical offset, how far from the bottom it is. Horizontal, how far from the edge. Again, this depends greatly on which item you choose over here in the position, like so, and then click on OK. Then click on Next and just go through the process of naming it, where do you want to save it to, and then click on Finish. And that is how you can create and add a watermark or bug to your video. That's going to bring us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day.